It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and we're jumping into a brand new month. We're looking at the movies of February 5th, 1993. Five movies to look at. Originally I had six, but I can't find any footage of To Want to Fly, which was the last movie on the list here, so unfortunately we got to cut that one out of here. So we still got five movies to look at, though, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We actually have a couple of pretty good movies this week in particular, and we're going to start off with this first one here. The parody spoof starring Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson, National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. So, as the title indicates, this is basically spoofing the first three Lethal Weapon films. We also have reference spoofs to Basic Instinct, Die Hard, Dirty Harry, Rambo, Silence of the Lambs, Wayne's World, 48 Hours, Chips, pretty much buddy cop movies in general. You got Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson starring as the Merton Riggs of this movie, kind of. Instead of in this movie, they're Sergeant Jack Colt and Sergeant Wes Luger. You also see Kathy Ireland in there, Tim Curry, William Shatner, John Lovitz, Dennis Leary's also in the movie. A lot of names in this movie you'll see here, including you see the cameo by James Doohan as Scotty in there, but also you have Eric Estrada, Larry Wilcox, Corey Feldman, Whoopi Goldberg, Paul Gleason, Phil Hartman, Richard Mole, J.T. Walsh, Bruce Mahler, Robert Shea, Charles Napier. Bruce Willis appears as John McClane in a cameo. Denise Richards is in here. Alice Beasley from Moonlighting and Recess. Dr. Joyce Brothers, Christopher Lambert, Charlie Sheen. Just an entire cast of people, and a good ensemble cast in this movie, and some pretty good cameos in here. And honestly, in terms of these spoof comedies, not a whole lot of them were really as funny as something like the Naked Gun movies or the Hot Shot movies. This is one of the few examples of this is one of the first of the examples where you actually had something that actually was pretty funny overall. Like, I remember watching this movie on video back in the 2000s, never really knowing anything about it, and I just watched it because it's a parody film, like the Naked Gun films and the Scary Movie films. And I was pleasantly surprised by it. I was pleasantly surprised on how much I was laughing at this movie. I mean, it's a really funny movie. A very silly movie, a very over-the-top movie, but it's very funny. And you see a lot of the funnier jokes in the trailer. Like, they don't spoil a lot of they spoil some of the jokes, but there are some jokes that are not in this trailer that actually are legitimately funny. And, I mean, really, this is a pretty funny movie. Like, I was watching this, and I was just like, this is actually pretty good. Like, I don't see that many good spoof movies outside of the Naked Gun films, or the Scary Movie films, or the Hot Shots films, or the Airplane, or just for examples. But this movie really made me laugh the first time I watched it, and every time I watch it, I still find a lot to really laugh about. It is very silly. The jokes may not be as clever as something like the Naked Gun movies or any of the other Zucker Brothers movies, but it's still a really funny movie. It's still a really funny film overall. I really enjoy it a lot. If you haven't seen it, and you want to see a pretty funny spoof movie, this definitely takes the cake. It's a very good, funny film. I'd say definitely check it out. Loaded Weapon 1, very funny film. So, with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Richard Gere and Jodie Foster in Summersby. Here's another movie that has a pretty strong cast involved. You have Richard Gere, Jodie Foster, but you also see Bill Pullman in there. James Earl Jones, Frankie Faison is in this as well. Arlie Ermey's in this. Maury Chaykin. Some very notable names here. And you have something pretty interesting here. This director is John Emile, who also did films such as Copycat, The Man Who Knew Too Little, Entrapment, The Core. I mean, honestly, probably his best film, quite honestly, is Entrapment, but even that's just kind of like, it's not a great movie, but it's still a fun action movie overall with Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones. And with this movie here, I could see the potential. There's a interesting mystery here, but the script doesn't really want that to be the focus of the movie. Honestly, I think the focus of the film wants to be specifically on the relationship between Richard Gere and Jodie Foster, which it works pretty well. I mean, their performances are fine in this movie. I just don't think the mystery aspect of this is all that exciting. I don't think the story really is that inventive or anything exciting, and the film ends pretty mediocrely. Like, they're trying to force somewhat of a happy ending to you, but it just didn't work for me. It's a movie that just feels like I've seen way too many shows and movies try to do the similar story, and they fail miserably. One of the most notable examples is the Principal and the Pauper episode of The Simpsons, where, of course, it's revealed in that episode that Seymour Skinner is actually not who he says he is, and this other guy is actually the real Seymour Skinner, and it's widely considered to be the episode of The Simpsons where the peak of the series started to fall off. I still consider it one of the worst episodes of the series, and I love The Simpsons a lot, but that to me is still one of the worst episodes the show has ever done. And I've seen that happen so many. I've seen this story done so many times. Family Guy's also done it once, but that was mostly in the final minutes of an episode. It's been something that's been done over and over again. I think the only one that's actually done the story really well was Mad Men. I think they did a pretty good job of using that similar storyline and actually doing it and putting it to good use for the character of Don Draper. If you haven't seen if you haven't seen what happens, I'm not going to spoil it, but I guess I kind of spoiled it a little bit. But if you haven't seen it, you should be watching Mad Men anyway. It's a fantastic show. But as far as this movie goes, it's okay. It's nothing really all that spectacular. I think what keeps it afloat are the performances by Foster and Gere. I think they work off each other really well. Their chemistry is so good, but the rest of the movie itself is just mediocre at best. It's not something I'd watch again, but I am glad I saw it at least once. So that's my thoughts on Summersby. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is The Vanishing. So this is actually a remake of a French-Dutch film released in 1988 with this actual same director, George Slizer, who did this version. So you would think that if you got the same director who did the original version, he would do just as good of a job with the remake version of it. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and despite a strong cast in this movie that includes people like Jeff Bridges, Kiefer Sutherland, Sandra Bullock, Nancy Travis, the movie itself is pretty bad. I mean, it's a movie that really misses the mark of what made the original movie so special, and it's often been considered one of the worst remakes ever made, and you can pretty much see why. It's a movie that takes a really good story, a really well done story, and just makes it a safe and marketable thriller so teenagers can go see it on opening weekend just to get laid. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, it's a movie that's not all that exciting. It's a movie that has a really lackluster performance by Jeff Bridges. I cannot believe that accent he has in this movie, and I think Roger Ebert says it best. They turn it into a slasher movie at the end with a very cheap joke and a very lousy ending. I mean, there's nothing exciting about this movie whatsoever. There's nothing really enjoyable about this movie at all. These actors deserve a lot better than this movie here, and it's really a bad movie. It's really one of the worst remakes ever made. It's just such an insult to the original film. They took something that could be very good and very well done, and just completely toned it down for a safe and marketable movie that, like I said, teenagers can take their girlfriends to, or maybe the other way around. Teenage girls can take their boyfriends to, so they can if you know what I mean. I mean, that's pretty much what this movie basically exists for. They didn't want to tell a good story. They wanted to make a movie so that teenagers can go out there on Friday night, see it, and then immediately forget about it because there were more important things that happened to them that night. And I mean, this actually may be a bad movie to take a date to. I mean, this is a bad movie. One of the worst remakes ever made. Just an insult to the original film. Just a terrible movie all around. Avoid The Vanishing like the plague. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to a much better movie, and that is Disney's Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey. Unlike The Vanishing, here's a remake that's actually much better than the original film. I mean, The Incredible Journey, which I actually didn't know that this was actually based off of original Disney movie that was actually, well, not even the original Disney movie. It was actually based off of a novel that came out 2 years prior to this. But believe it or not, this actually was a remake of The Incredible Journey from 1963, which it's a fine movie for what it is. I mean, it's pretty much what you expect it to be in terms of like a classic family Disney adventure from back in the 60s and back from the 60s. It is fine for what it is, but I really do like that this movie is a vast improvement on the original film. I do like this movie a lot. The voice, they actually have the voices of Michael J. Fox, Sally Field, and Don Amici in this as the pets. And usually when you add celebrity voices to this, chance is usually you're just doing it so you can put some names on the poster, and they're not really all that memorable. But honestly, I'm glad they did it this time. I'm glad they did it because it actually does work here. Like, you can really get into these characters a lot with these voice talents that they have. You have Michael J. Fox as Chance, Shadow is voiced by Amici, and Sally Field is Sassy. And these characters, they do a really good job making these voices appeal to these characters. Like, you can feel it's like you can get more invested in these characters and the situations that they put themselves into here. The cast overall is great. Robert Hayes is in here. Kim Greist as the parents. The kids in here are very good. The adventure aspect is great. The comedy works really well. There's a lot of good emotional and serious moments that are done very well. It is a very good, fun family adventure film, and I think it's honestly one of the best remakes Disney's ever done. It improves on the flaws of the original film and creates this fun adventure that you want to go on, and it works on so many levels. It's a movie that still holds up to this very day. Can't recommend this movie enough. Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. Amazing, amazing film. So, on that note, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is The Cemetery Club. This one is one that I haven't seen. I can't really comment on it too much, but judging by these trailers, it doesn't look that bad. It looks like a lighthearted comedy specifically tailored to older females, like in their 40s or 50s. We get a lot of those movies nowadays, stuff like Book Club, Palms, just a couple of those movies to mention. I think this is one of those movies that fits to that specific audience. That's what I want to say. You got some notable actors in here: Ellen Burstyn, Olympia Dukakis, Diane Ladd, Lainey Kazan, Danny Aiello, Christina Ricci's in here, Bernie Casey, Wallace Shawn, Robert Costanzo, Catherine Keener, Jerry Orbach. Just a pretty good cast overall here. It could be good. I mean, it doesn't look like a terrible movie, but honestly, in terms of these movies, there's only been a couple of them that I've actually seen and actually have kind of liked. Some of the most notable ones include The First Wives Club, which comes out a couple years after this movie did. That's one of those movies. I can't really think of some other movies, but I know there are some other ones. As far as this movie goes, it looks pretty good. It looks like it could be pretty fun. So, I'm not going to rush out to see it anytime soon, but it definitely does look like it could be a lighthearted, enjoyable comedy. That's pretty much all I got for you on this one. That's The Cemetery Club. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll look at the movies of February 12th. A lot of movies to look at, including one of my all-time favorite movies, Groundhog Day. We also have Untamed Heart. We also have The Temp. Let me see what we have here. Love Field, Strictly Ballroom, and Dead Alive. I believe that's 6 movies, at least what I'm getting from this list here. It's one of those lists where it only has one movie that's highlighted as the first weekend it comes out, and then you have to really look deep to see which movies are new that you haven't seen on the previous week's list. So I'm guessing that's 6 movies, and we'll look at those on tomorrow's episode. So, like I said before, these are not going to be coming out every single day now. We're not just going to take Saturday off. It's now going to be every day. You're going to get a brand new episode. So we will do another episode tomorrow. But until then, thank you very much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, take care.